Did the Thunder or Spurs even want to win Game 5? Anyway, we all watched that. That was crazy. Plenty to break down. I'm talking so many takeaways from this game. We've got a little end of the show mailbag, and we're going to break down some other cool, fun things. So, look, welcome back to the Casual Observer. I'm your host, Daniel. Let's dive straight into Game 5. It really did look like neither team wanted this game. it was like watching two people try and lose the same game. It was crazy. So many opportunities for both teams to win. But in the end, the Thunder draw it out by 13. They win 127 to 114 and go up 3-2 in the series. Prediction for myself was 4-2 Thunder, so looking pretty good. Also guess 4-1 for the Knicks Cavs. Cavs just decided to not show up at all. So, yeah, it was pretty crazy. This game started with Mark Daigneault making the starting lineup change of Jared McCain over Cason Wallace. And I thought Wallace played well last game, but it was definitely more the offensive side of the ball that he was trying to cover up. And initially, it looked horrendous. I think McCain started 1 of 5, was made to play make. That didn't go well. He did finish the game with 0 assists. Yet again, his playmaking chops is not there. And I think he's an exact Jamal Crawford, just shorter, little prototype there. So I think that's what the Thunder were going for when they did. I thought they might. I reckon they tried to think that they would get a little bit of playmaking out of McCain, but in the absence of SGA being able to playmake every possession because he's the main guy that the Spurs are looking at. Yeah, to get no assist from McCain is, but hey, look, he's your starting two. You had Dort, you had Ihart, you had Chet. There's not a lot of playmaking on that, and it showed up early, and you could see Mark Daigneault being like, we got to take him out. And so Caruso comes in, Wallace comes in, and already it just looked a lot better. But Champagnie, it was almost the Julian Champagnie game. That first half was crazy. He actually finished with a team worst -20, which is just, when you're watching with your eyes, didn't feel like that. But the stats are there. So he had himself a good game, and we'll go through all the stats. But I actually thought, holy moly, this dude is not playing around to start with. And then, like all the Spurs except Castle, just didn't show up in the second half. Definitely made notes of, it was 44 to 45, 6 minutes to go in the second quarter. Half finishes 58-69 Thunder up. And then the Thunder hit them with a 16-7 run to start the third, which the Spurs fought back from with their own 14-2 run, but still, that just seemed like, signalling of the end there. But that's what I'm saying. Both teams try to lose this game. The Thunder are up 20 and couldn't ice this game until about the last 3 minutes. So, a lot that both teams can take away from this. But I don't know, again, watching with your eyes, I thought the Spurs played pretty horrifically. That's the worst defensive game I've seen maybe all season. And the fact they only went down by 13 when they looked that bad, I think there's actually a lot of hope for them in Game 6. They'll be back home as well. So this could be a 7-game series. Foul trouble. Castle, Keldon Johnson, 5 fouls very early each in the fourth quarter. I thought Keldon was a must to play in this game, and then getting in foul trouble was, kind of took away some of the edge. They only have a few tough guys on the team, Castle and Keldon, unless you want to count Plumlee and Bismack Biyombo, but we'll talk about them later. For those two to not show up, be in foul trouble, it's just, suddenly your lineup just gets a little bit smaller, softer, and it showed towards the end of that game. So, Wemby, very un-Wemby-like, terrible Wemby game, if you will. Again, when you're watching, he ends up with 20 points, 6 rebounds, 4 of 15 from the field, 0 of 5 from downtown. But I don't know, just watching, I feel like he got some cheap free throws at the end there to boost the point total, but being 7-5 and only getting 6 rebounds is pretty bad, and it's 3 straight games of less than 10 rebounds. So I think the Thunder have definitely figured something out at him, and I think that thing is Isaiah Hartenstein, or Stein. I thought after game one, this was not a Hartenstein series. Couldn't be more wrong. What Hartenstein and Dagnall have done is basically just be like, we've got 6 fouls, let's use them. Play tough. We've got Caruso, we've got Wallace, we've got Jay Will. Let's just hit him with bodies, hit him with physicality, and I think you're starting to see 5 games into a series that physicality taking its toll on Wemby. So yeah, it's an amazing job from Isaiah Hartenstein, who's also hitting that little jump hook floater from the free throw line and in with consistency. So he definitely has a place in this series. I was wrong. There you go. I'll probably be saying that a lot, but yeah, this is definitely an Isaiah Hartenstein series. I thought he would struggle even to, he's got a team contract at the end of the year, or team option on his contract, $29 million. I thought there's no way in hell they're picking that up after game one, and 5 games in, I think they'd be silly to not pick that option up and potentially move off Lou Dort instead to keep him. So, yeah, I imagine there's a lot of teams around the league hoping the Thunder don't pick that option up, but yeah, he has... Not single-handedly, because Caruso, McCain, just the whole Thunder bench have really got a lot to be praised for in this series. But yeah, he certainly is. He started it with his physicality. You saw in game one he played 12 minutes and they used Caruso, and Caruso fights hard but just too small. Now they can use Caruso sparingly against Wemby, but you can see quite obviously from their game plan that the Thunder are just hitting Wemby, using him they're using it like the physicality against him to push him out of where he wants. That it's taking longer and longer for the Spurs to get into their offense. I mean, his paint touches were so far down today. It's not funny. Hey, it's the Spurs did not look like themselves. So, I mean, as we said in previous episodes, the key to success for both these teams was turnovers and threes and paint touches. And it looked like the paint touches were way, way down for both teams, but specifically the Spurs. Fox, yes, he's injured, but he had nothing. He was also 4 of 15 from the field. He didn't get into the lane that much and that easily, and when he did, tough shots or the kick-out pass wasn't there because the Thunder were defending him straight up. They weren't sending doubles from the corners. They weren't sending any help. And if they were, it was just to kind of contest his fadeaway little jump shot from 10 feet. So Harper, again, dude's only, 19, 20? He's built really well for that age, for the rookie, but he's starting to slow in this series. I think he's starting to either feel the fatigue or the pressure or, and that going into that crowd would have been, that's not easy. For anyone, especially if it's your first time in the playoffs in the NBA as a whole. But yeah, he looked terrible. There was a couple of turnovers that Wallace got on him inbounding the ball, and yeah, you haven't seen that all season from Dylan Harper. So yeah, huge rookie mistakes starting to show up, and their backcourt's just not hitting the paint with the frequency that the Spurs need to generate their threes and generate their offense. Because then if Wemby's not hitting the paint, he's not getting his touches in the paint. The Spurs guards aren't getting in the paint. Where are you going? And it quickly turned into, when that run was going on at the end of the second, start of the third, 1 or 2 passes along the 3-point line, and then just, if it was a half open shot, it was going up. And again, if I'm the Thunder, I'm living with Keldon Johnson shooting threes. Living with the way Champagnie had been shooting in this series. I was going to live with him. He's now seems to be alive again. But Castle, Harper, even Fox, Wemby, there's just not enough threat out there in days like this where you will definitely live with them just shooting the first good shot that they can get. So, yeah, look, they did generate open looks. I'm not saying they didn't, but they were not the shots. I don't think the Spurs, if they look back, they'd be like, that's not who we want shooting. It's not how we want that shot to become available to us. It was a very different game plan, and I think the Thunder need a lot of credit for making them take those shots. So the Thunder definitely responded after Game 4, and it's a hell of a series as we thought it was. This series wouldn't be what it is without the fans. Holy shit, did I love the Thunder fans early, just yelling flopper at Wemby. After the Spurs fans had done the same to SGA, I thought that was the funniest thing ever. I was like, yes, give it back. Whether it's true or not, doesn't matter. The fans are involved, and these are two of the best markets going like head to head. So that was fucking awesome. At the start of this game, SGA was averaging 24 and 10 in the series, but only on 39% from the field. And in comparison to the season, he was averaging 31, 6.5 assists, 4 rebounds, 1.5 steals, and 55 from the field. So he hadn't been himself, and he came out in that first 18 minutes of the game and looked horrendous. And he really found another gear at the end of that second quarter. And I honestly just think it's shot making. The reason he's averaging 10 assists is he's getting doubled and he's getting off the ball, which is great. But he is also taking some horrendous shots. The eye test again. You're watching this man avoid the paint when Wemby's on the floor, like everyone. But as he's dribbling in, you can see he's getting to his midi a lot more. And if they're not falling, that's where his efficiency is disappearing to. So he has not been the MVP of this series. He has for the Thunder, but overall, no. I couldn't actually tell you who the MVP of this series is. It seems to change night to night. The Spurs wins, it's Wemby. The Spurs losses, anyone from the Thunder. The Thunder bench might be the MVP of this series. So, but yes, SGA hit them back real hard, and what it was his midi was falling, and you could see it if you go back and watch that run, end of the second, start of the third. He's getting to where he wants to, and he's taking these tough fadeaway middies, but they're falling. They are splashing in the Spurs' faces, and that opens up the whole game because he's feeling himself. The Spurs have to react differently to him. Yes, they still want him taking the midi. It's better than him being in the paint. But yeah, it was huge to see that the switch just got flicked by him, and SGA was rolling again. And then you could see the Thunder as a whole, as a collective, suddenly just play differently when their leader's suddenly feeling like their leader again. But as I said, eye test, it seems like he's taking a lot of middies. And then I was listening to the Chris Vernon, Dave Jacoby, Kevin O'Connor podcast, and Kevin O'Connor actually backed everything I just set up. He said facts-wise is, in this series with Wemby on the floor, SGA is shooting over half his shots from mid-range and only 20-odd% at the rim. Again, that changes huge when Cornet's on the floor. Suddenly, that mid-range goes down to about 30%, about 20%. But he's shooting 67% of his shots at the rim. So with Wemby, 55 to 60% of his shots are middies, and then with Cornet, 60 to 70% of his shots are at the rim. So you can see the game open up for him when Wemby's not on the floor. But if he's hitting his shots, again, the game opens up for the entire Thunder team. So you can see, that's why I'm saying there's huge positives for the Spurs if you're a fan of the Spurs. Yes, all it takes now is one more warm, hot game from SGA, and your season might be done. But with Wemby on the floor, there's a chance that SGA is taking these tough fading middies. You can live with that because at least the ball isn't popping around. You saw when SGA hit the bench, especially after that first quarter, and he looked a little defeated on the bench. You don't get much from him. He's very calm and stoic, but he did look actually a little defeated there, and I think the bench actually picked him up and showed him what they could do as well and to support him. You could see a lineup with Kenrich Williams, J. Will, Wallace, Caruso, and it was either McCain or Wiggins, I believe. But it may have been Chet. Either way, that lineup was 5 out. It was Chet. It was a 5 out lineup, and it was just quite a simple little, get the ball in the paint, which Wallace was doing, and kick out. And I think they got 3 straight open threes from that. just that 5-out motion offense, and you could see suddenly there was some life, there was some energy just humming along in that Thunder, on that Thunder bench. So that's what we've been saying this whole time is paint touch, kick out, play a little less selfishly. I'm not saying any of these players are playing selfishly, but the tough middies, the fadeaways, that's not generating. You're not helping anyone elevate. You're not helping anyone get better. And that little 3-minute stretch from that bench was amazing. I thought it was huge in the context of this game. In the context of a 13-point game, to win those SGA on the bench minutes was by and far a huge, huge win. Did have, as we said, the Spurs defense was horrendous. Not their usual self. I believe it was, Reggie and Jamal breaking down some of the defensive lapses. SGA drives baseline. There's, I believe, Harper, and then Wemby comes to double. Wemby pointing at Hartenstein, and then the other 3 Spurs players don't go grab him, and Hartenstein gets a dunk. And that's a simple little communication thing that you're like, all right, a team like the Knicks, they're not making those mistakes right now. And if you want to win at the highest level, which, there's 3 teams left in this thing, you can't afford those little lapses. And there was many, many more breakdowns. There was easy transition layups. There were breakdowns in the middle of the paint, easy kickouts from wrong rotations off the wrong shooters. It was a very unspursy defensive effort today, and it was, as it showed. You make a few mistakes in a row, and suddenly a 13-point game is a fair result. So the thing that irked me the most was just contesting every little pump fake. Like, there's no need to be launching yourself at Cason Wallace shooting a 3, at Kenrich Williams shooting a 3, even Chet shooting a 3, Lou Dort shooting a 3. Like, the amount of times they would pump fake, the Spurs defender would go flying past them, and they would just dribble in, defense collapses and reacts, and then they just get another wide open shot. And you're like, Spurs, like, use your fucking heads. Like, I get you're eager, you've done really well, but what, like, you see Cason Wallace taking a 3, like, make him make a few first. Like, all right, the way the Caruso's been shooting the series maybe warrants a little bit more of effort, but even then, last game he had like 1 shot attempt. Like, what are you doing? And that was another little patch in that second quarter run, that kick out pass, pump fake, defender goes flying, drive in. And then 3 more times that would happen. And you're just like, guys, switch on. If I'm Mitch Johnson, I'm tearing limb from limb in that locker room for our defensive effort. Offensively, shots are going to fall. They may not. As long as the process is all right, you're happy with some of the shots. Again, I wasn't happy with any of their game plan, but you could find the positives in the offense. Defensively, that's not good enough. That was shit. It was just a lack of concentration, and the moment just seemed to be too big for them today. I don't think Game 6 will be too big for them. I think they'll get fired up. I imagine Castle and Wemby are going to lead the charge. But yeah, just got to concentrate. Carter Bryant only played 6 minutes. Had a good moment when he dunked and then hit a 3, but defensively had all the effort that you could ask for. But again, some dumb fouls reaching in when they're in the bonus. Some jumping at pump fakes. You can see. Yeah, I've been calling for more Carter Bryant. I would say 6 minutes was justified today. The Cornet minutes. A lot of people have been saying he's a very value contract. Look, I like him. I would obviously prefer him to be able to do a bit more, especially when I believe he used to be a bit of a range shooter, whether that was with the Celtics or even before. But look, being 7'1", like, hey, look, big deterrent at the front there. But I don't know. I think next to Wemby, anyone's going to look trash. So we'll give him that. The fact he's actually probably making a huge difference. eye test, though, when you've watched Wemby for 10 minutes and then you get Cornet, it's a big drop-off. The Thunder attack the rim more, and Cornet just doesn't... he makes some plays, but, he's a $10 million a year center, and it shows. So I broke it down his contract. It's a 4-year, $41 million contract. First 2 years, fully guaranteed. But the third year, only $2.5 million is guaranteed, and the fourth year, $0 guaranteed. So this could be a $23 million contract if the Spurs want it to be. And there's a couple of years left before you've got to decide that, but I wouldn't blame them if they may cut that one early and not pick up that fourth year. So I know it's a long way out, but just from the eye test, it's if the Spurs can get a big man in this year's draft or next year's draft that can develop behind Wemby, or they can pick one up in the open market, I think that might be the way to go in a couple of years' time. But, that's just... The poor bastards got to play next to Wemby. Good luck. Everyone's going to look fucking shithouse next to big man Wemby. So, the Spurs defense also gave up about 100 points through three quarters. So, 100 points in three quarters, not going to win you many games, especially when some of this, especially last game when the Thunder put up, 82 points, season low. Huge difference between 48 hours of games. As I said, did either team want to win? Did the Spurs players even show up? Wemby barely gets a pass, and that's because defensively he's still a menace. But Fox, Harper, and Vassell, again, I'm watching this game. I didn't notice you guys out there at all. And again, for Vassell, he's already said he's a role player. He's accepted his role. He's doing well. An off game is fine for a role player, especially on the road. But, having been potentially up there with Caruso as role player of the series, that was a huge disappointment. Got nothing from him and was part of the defensive lapses. And Fox and Harper, yes, both might be not 100%, but just, no impact. Jordan McLaughlin may have been a better option. It was just, no bad turnovers, no paint penetration. There was, huge disappointment. The stock on those two took a hit. Again, if you're going to have 4 of your starting 5 not show up, and then Champagnie doesn't show up in the second half, you're done. You're dead on arrival. And they did, that's what I'm saying. They fought, and there's a lot of positives to take away from this. So, look, I would say takeaways from this game is, it was going to be the Champagnie game. Ended up with 20 plus, but ended up with a team worst minus 20. So do with that what you will. I think he actually played good on the eye test. So the Spurs by the end of the game did look like, not that they hated each other, they just looked disappointed, fed up. The trust was starting to break apart. It looked like the Thunder had broken their spirits in this game. Basically in one half. And that's where it was really interesting to see the Bismack Biyombo Mason Plumlee double with 2 minutes to go, or a minute 39, and they just laid the smackdown on the Thunder. And that seemed to really bond the Spurs back on the bench. It seemed like a semi-pro moment. The Will Ferrell, Woody Harrelson movie. It was, hey, Father Pat, call a timeout. Somebody hit somebody. It was crazy. It was. If you see that movie, that scene where it's just, that song in the back, Why Can't We Be Friends? Everyone hitting someone, people holding on, like the umpire holding on to players' legs. Oh, hilarious. And that's what it felt like. It felt like Plumlee and Bismack were just running through people, trying to fight them. Add some toughness to the series. Add some spice. I'd be shocked if there's not a fight in Game 6 now. But that seemed to really bond the Spurs back together watching that carnage unfold. Big fan. Don't love dirty plays, don't get me wrong, but if it reminds me of a movie like Semi-Pro, you've kind of won me over. So that was... if you haven't seen Semi-Pro, go watch it. But look, neither team seemed to want to win. He was kind of like people fighting over a dodgeball when the game starts. Again, another good movie. Go watch Dodgeball. Running towards the dodgeball. Neither actually wanted to grab the ball. No one wanted to win. So it was really good to see that for the flow that this series seems to have had, this got scrappy fast. And it really only seemed that the Spurs were getting anything from turnovers and rebounds. It didn't seem like their offense was established, was doing anything. They need to establish a bit more of an offensive game plan coming up into Game 6 if they stand any chance of winning this one. So that's our breakdown of Game 5. Look forward to Game 6. Would be shocked if we don't go to a Game 7. I think there's a lot of positives for the Spurs. 70 free throws in this game. That can fuck off. Do not want to watch that shit ever. And the Thunder really only played 7 players. Look, they played Dort 18 minutes and K. Will 11. But the other 7 players played 20 odd plus. That's a shorter rotation. That's what we've been calling for. And look, you get the win. It's crazy. You had some continuity on the floor. Imagine that. Using your fucking eyes. Haha. Look, we'll move on to the mailbag. Because Game 6 is around the corner. Fans have asked, why am I a Miami Heat fan? Am I a homer for the LeBron team? No. I actually am a Miami Heat fan. If I'm going to take you back and show you my age, NBA 2K6 had Shaquille O'Neal on the front cover. I'll post it later on the Instagram, but I was playing that game, trying to establish Shaq, and I was like, man, like the guy I'm playing with is like pretty amazing. Turns out to be Dwayne Wade, and that was my first exposure to Miami Heat culture. Was having Dwayne Wade just dominate 2K6. We're up to 2K26 now. 20 years of this. And the darkest day was when D. Wade decided to go to Chicago for a year. It was tough sledding. Some tough seasons in there as a Heat fan. Gonna be a few tough ones coming up, I dare say, unless we get Giannis and fill out the roster somehow. We'll break that down in some off-season chat, but hey... there's some tough years when you're rooting for Dion Waiters, Hassan Whiteside, James Johnson, Kelly Olynyk. Fun teams, but hard to root for. Talking about the Knicks. People have asked, how did they build this team? It's story time. The Knicks all starts back when they draft Porzingis. Do you remember that guy? Kristaps Porzingis? If you're a Celtics fan, you remember him. If you're Dallas, you'll probably put him out of your mind. Because that trade fucked ya. So, look, I think Porzingis is drafted 2014, 4th overall. They have some fun years. Don't achieve anything. Worldwide West, Leon Rose, just fucking with the Knicks fans for 20 years. Potentially worst owner in the sport. No one wants to go there. No KD, no Kyrie. Just carnage. And then we all remember the hilarious Stephen A. Smith when Randall signs there instead of KD and Kyrie, and his rant. Go watch it if you haven't seen it. Hilarious. His rant about signing Julius Randle as the savior of New York. Funniest shit ever. That's 2019. So he signs 2019, 3 years, 63 mil. Little do they know he's about to become an all-star. But yeah, that was their hopes, was big all-stars, all-NBA, and they got Julius Randle. But that was the start of things. So they've drafted Mitch Robinson, 36 in 2018. They've drafted R.J. Barrett, number 3, 2019. Emmanuel Quickley, 25 at 2020. They've got McBride, number 36, 2021. They did also have Kevin Knox, but I honestly forgot when he got drafted. And then they hired Tom Thibodeau, 2020. So there's the makings of the team. And if you look hard enough for memes in Knicks land, you'll see a post when they've got all those young players saying this is the future. We are the league. And again, on paper, looks fucking awesome. Didn't work that way. But they built this thing by taking chances. And sometimes you got to risk it to get the biscuit. Again, if you haven't seen Fired Up, I'd highly suggest you do. Off topic, though. You got to risk it. And the first domino, the first risk, was trading Porzingis to Dallas. He was only 23 years of age. And this angered the fan base. But the thing that the fan base didn't realize was they got a shit ton of assets and they got cap flexibility. Again, some of this is luck. Some of this is you are opening the doors, at least. Whether you're going to walk through those doors or just have the potential there is two different things. So they gave themselves cap flexibility, got off Porzingis, and did a little reset. In that trade was, your Wesley Matthews, DeAndre Jordans, Dennis Smith Jr., 2 first-round picks. A lot of those guys were coming off the books. Could take a flyer on Dennis Smith at least. But Dallas drafts Jalen Brunson 2018. And he's sitting behind Luka. Luka gets injured in the 2021 playoffs, I believe. Jalen Brunson dominates the first 2 games of that series against Utah. Dominates. They also had the chance at the trade deadline that year, before all this happens, Dallas does, to sign him to a 4-year, $55 million extension. Jalen Brunson, I think, is dead keen for it. The Mavericks say, nah, we can get you cheaper. Who's your competition? Well, who's our competition? Who are you going to get money from? There was apparently a trade at the deadline that didn't go through. It was between the Knicks and the Mavericks. It was the Knicks wanting Brunson and the Mavs wanting either Grimes or Quickly, and a deal never materialized. And the Mavericks thought the Knicks will never get under the cap to be able to afford Brunson, so they thought there's no competition here. That's where the Porzingis trade comes in. They've got the assets to move off contracts. They've got the cap flexibility. And in the summer of 2022, Jalen Brunson gets signed to a 4-year, $104 million contract, which, again, if you go back and watch Nick Wright, Stephen A. Smith, any reporter, any personality, they said, cool signing. Is he even a top 10 guard? He's good, but he's not great. Well, Jalen Brunson heard that, said, fuck yeah, did you see me against Utah? I'd single-handedly destroyed Utah's future. That's when Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert disappeared from Utah. And that was the beginning of the Knicks. They then sign... Well, first of all, they trade Kevin Knox for Cam Reddish in 2022, signaling the end of their trust in Knox and taking a flyer on Reddish. But little did they know that trade then flourishes for them because they use Svi Mykhailiuk, Ryan Arcidiacono, definitely didn't say that right, Cam Reddish, and a future protected first to get themselves Josh Hart, the start of the Villanova Brotherhood. They then signed DiVincenzo, another Villanova alum, 4 years, $50 million in 2023. They also get Isaiah Hartenstein that year. That becomes the lunch pail, we are hard-working, blue-collar men. And that's the team that the Knicks fans fall back in love with. They lose to Indiana after having that many injuries, but that's the team. You can see the basis of what a Jalen Brunson-led team can do for you. Believe that season they also had OG Anunoby. So they use RJ Barrett and Quickly, and a second rounder that turned into Jonathan Mobo to get Anunoby. And again, you need some luck in these rebuilds. The Raptors held on to Anunoby, Siakam way too long. But, hey, that's their fault. So the Knicks pick him up for, Quickly was a 6th man of the year. RJ Barrett's still young and plenty of potential. We haven't seen the best of Mobo, but in the scheme of things, that is fuck all to give up for OG. Then the attention turns to big game hunting. Mikal Bridges warrants Bojan Bogdanovic, Shake Milton, 5 first-round future picks, a swap of a first in the future, and a second-round pick. And they get Mikal Bridges, which still might be an overpay. But when you're in the finals, especially if you win, fuck your picks, worth it. And then also, right just before training camp, they get Karl Anthony Towns, for Julius Randle, DiVincenzo, and a first rounder that ended up becoming Johan Berenger. So, bit of a win-win trade there. And throughout the last 2 seasons, we've been umming and ahhing who won that trade. Definitely would have the impact that halfway through this season, when the Knicks were falling apart, that Minnesota swept that fucking trade. But now, flash forward 4 months, Berenger barely played, DiVincenzo has no Achilles, and Randall just, where the fuck did he go? Which we all saw coming, because if you're not a fan of him, which I am not, worst attitude, no discernible skill, just becomes a bowling ball in the lane. So, he fucked off. So, look, the Cat contract's still, I mean, who knows how that'll age? That's $60 million a year, but that dude's got some discernible high-quality skills. Shooting and passing the rock. Defense, maybe not. But he seemed to round out that starting 5 perfectly for the Knicks. And then some of the bench moves that they've made. They signed Yabusele after the Olympics. Gershon Yabusele was amazing next to Victor Wembanyama. But he was a real pumpkin on the Knicks. So they moved off him for Dalen Terry at this year's trade deadline, and then moved Dalen Terry and picks for Alvarado. Alvarado, fan favourite. They signed Shamet and Clarkson over the last few off seasons, and the big move was firing Tom Thibodeau after making to their first conference finals in however many years, 20 plus. And after trying to shop every other team's coach and getting shut down by every other team, they end up with Mike Brown. And even though I have my own bones to pick with Mike Brown, he seems to have finally unlocked the Knicks, got them playing as a team, and he deserves some credit. And right now, I think it's the Knicks series to lose in the finals, whoever they go up against. They're fresh. They would have played 8 games in a month. They could have gone to Cancun twice and back. Theirs to lose. So that's how they got to where they are now. It all started with a Kevin Knox bit of draft and a Porzingis trade, and Dallas completely screwing up contract negotiations, not having the right value on their player. The Raptors not having and getting off their players for enough value, and sometimes just swinging for the fences. And that's how they did it. Joe Mazzulla, Coach of the Year, had a great regular season, 56 and 26 on the year, deserved it. Their team was, I actually thought they were going to be all right just because Jaylen Brown can play basketball and so can Derek White. I didn't think they were going to be 56 and 26 good. I thought they were going to be about 41 and 41. But so well and truly above expectations. However, I'm glad this award is voted on prior to the playoffs because what the fuck was that a game? Game 1? Oh, they won game 1. The last 4 games were horrendous. Terrible, terrible ideas, coaching, strategy. We won analytically. Cool. You don't see Kenny Atkinson on this list. Games aren't won on paper, you dipshit. Anyway, great regular season. Second was Bickerstaff from Detroit. Again, Detroit finished with the number 1 seed in the East, so fair enough. Great turnaround from 14 wins 2 years ago. And Mitch Johnson was third. Again, Spurs way ahead of where they should be. So, yep, great top 3. No arguments. Of course, I'd like to see Spoelstra win one day, but it's a real fantasy kind of dream, I think. Trades. I've got a couple to go through with you. I made these myself. Therefore, I am the biggest advocate for these trades. This is before Devin Vassell shit his pants tonight. So I thought the Pistons could use a real good role player, and it might be time for the Spurs to sell high. So the Pistons get Devin Vassell, and the Spurs get Duncan Robinson, Ron Holland, Paul Reed, the 21st pick in this year's draft, a future first of Detroit in 28, a swap right in 29, and a second round pick in 2030. So it's a bit of capital. But Vassell, again, if you're selling high, he's been the third best player for the Spurs. So maybe fourth. But defends, shoots, everything you want, again, before Game 5. And I thought, look, Duncan Robinson gives them some shooting. The Spurs will probably only play him like 10 minutes a game. You could see what you have in Ron Holland. You get another backup center that's much cheaper than Cornette. And you get a bit more draft capital to use those assets if you want to go out big game hunting again, or if you want to move off Fox, or whatever you need to do. So it might be an overpay from the Pistons, but after we watched in their series, you might need an overpay. I don't think the Pistons would do this. I think if I'm the Spurs, I'm heavily considering it. Just because of your development schemes and programs, you don't know what Ron Holland could be. You don't know what the 21st could be. So options there. I don't think that deal would ever happen. If we look at De'Aaron Fox trades, if we want to get unlikely but fun, the Suns get involved. So the Suns would get De'Aaron Fox. The Spurs would get Dylan Brooks, Royce O'Neal, Ryan Dunn, a future first from Cleveland in 27, Phoenix's first in 33, and a second in 33. That's a trade that would just really allow a bit more flexibility. You get a few assets. You get some toughness. That was the thing we were saying when the Spurs were down 2-1 in this series. They need some fucking balls, some guys that aren't afraid, just some fuck you attitude. And this is the trade that would get it for him is Dylan Brooks. He ain't messing with anyone. Royce O'Neal's tough, adds some shooting, adds some vet leadership, and Ryan Dunn is another guy that you can just see what's there. You know, whether he plays for you or not, does he develop? He's a defensive menace, good size. You take a flyer on him. So that would allow the Suns to have also Booker and Fox as their backcourt, still young enough to do something. I think that would be fun for both teams. Again, I think the Spurs could probably do a little bit better, but I wouldn't hate it. If we went a little fancy, 3-team trade, we could do Raptors get De'Aaron Fox, the Trailblazers get Brandon Ingram and a swap right in 28. The Spurs would then get Jeremy Grant, Tamani Kamara, and Toronto's first round pick in 27. Again, I don't think it's enough value, but the reason this works, the Raptors get their point guard, they can then do other moves with quickly or make him a 6th man of the year again. The Blazers get a scorer next to Denny Avdia, as long as Brandon Ingram wants to show up. I personally wouldn't bank on him helping us win anything. And then the Spurs, you get a bit more vet leadership, but you get some size and shooting in Jeremy Grant. See what's left in his game. Tamani Kamara's young, cheap, and a shooting wing. And again, in San Antonio, you can't get enough of those kind of players. And then just getting another asset as well in a first-round pick. I don't think it's enough. I could see why each team would do this. I could see why each team would also say, I'm hanging up, thank you. But it's just fun. Again, if the Raptors wanted to go a different way and not involve the Trailblazers, Raptors get De'Aaron Fox. Spurs get RJ Barrett, Grady Dick, Jacoby Walter, the 19th pick in this year's draft, and Toronto's 28th first-round pick. It cuts a smidge of salary for the Spurs, but again, Raptors get their point guard to put next to Scotty Barnes. Still young enough, but the Spurs can take what's left in Jacoby Walter and Grady Dick, see if they've got any juice, not left because they're still young, but see what they can provide. And you're taking a flyer on those two. Jacoby Walter looked pretty good by the end of the Cavs series. But RJ Barrett's the one where you can kind of just assume he's going to get you transition points. He's going to get you into the paint. You probably want him to stop shooting as many threes. But he would honestly line up pretty nicely next to Harper, Castle, and he would sit at the 3, and you could have Champagny at the 4, Bryant at the 4 in the future. But it gives them some more flexibility as well. The picks, again, it just gives you more bites at the apple and more assets. So I like that one a bit more for both teams. I don't think you're giving up that much as a Raptors fan. And as the Spurs, in your system, you could definitely turn RJ Barrett into a real weapon, considering you turn your defense into offense, and he's a menace in the open court. The Hawks, only got a few more of these, but the Hawks acquire De'Aaron Fox. Spurs get Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Zachary Rieseshay, Buddy Hield, and a future first. Or the 23rd in this year's draft, whichever one the Spurs want. I kind of like it for both. You get Nickeil Alexander-Walker that can play multiple roles on any team, and he's proven winner. Zachary Rieseshay is French, so maybe you can revive his career next to Wemby. Buddy Hield's just salary filler, but also provides a shit ton of shooting. And the 23rd pick in this year's draft, if they go that way, gets you a nice solid player and someone that you could just build up in the future that you don't need to be amazing right now. And the Hawks would get De'Aaron Fox to put next to Dyson Daniels, Jalen Johnson, just give them a bit more of a scoring punch. And on paper, it just provides a different dynamic to their current team. I quite like that one for both teams. Again, if I'm the Spurs, I'm like, I could probably do better, but you're taking a flyer on a young player, you're getting a pick, you're getting a shooter, and you're getting the most improved from this year. So that's good value. And probably one of the two most rogue trades, De'Aaron Fox to the Timberwolves for Jaden McDaniels, Dante DiVincenzo, and a future second, and that's it. It depends on the Spurs how much you rate Jaden McDaniels next to Wemby. Because when Jaden McDaniels has a bee in his bonnet, such as going against the Nuggets, he is an all-star caliber player. When he doesn't give a fuck, he is average. DiVincenzo will be good when he returns. You can basically say he's not there this year, so that's where there might need to be a bit more asset retrieval from the Spurs, whether it's a first or future seconds. But again, a vet guard that can shoot, you can never have enough of them, and he could be that scoring punch off the bench that the Spurs might need while Harper's starting. So I like it for both teams. Of course, that means the Timberwolves still have Randall, Gobert, obviously Anthony Edwards, and then Terrence Shannon. So they'd have enough there. I don't love it. It depletes two of their starters, but if you want a nice all-star guard next to Anthony Edwards, this is your trade. And last one, just because I won't dive into Heat trades at the moment, but the Celtics get involved. And now I may have the picks on the wrong side of this, but I think I've nailed it. The Spurs get Jaylen Brown, the Twitch stream god, and also second team All-NBA. Sorry for that. It's obvious why they would do that one. Jaylen Brown's amazing. Can get his own shot, plays defense. What's not to love? Only thing not to love is the contract, especially when you've got to pay Wemby, Castle, and Harper in the future. But future problems. And the Celtics would get De'Aaron Fox, Keldon Johnson, the 20th pick in this year's draft, and a future Atlanta first. I think that's amazing value for Jaylen Brown. I think that's good value for De'Aaron Fox. Yes, you're giving up Sixth Man of the Year, Keldon Johnson, and a starter, and the pick in this year's draft. But you got to give something to get something. And it might just open up a 4-year window with Jaylen Brown and Wemby and Harper and Castle. That you can, if you've still got Vassell there, you've got Carter Bryant developing. That could be a win-win for both teams. Instead of being so Tatum-centric and ISO ball heavy, you can get De'Aaron Fox just cranking in the paint, kicking out to shooters. You've got another wing with Keldon Johnson. Whoever you pick at 20, I think it's a win-win. Let us know what you think, but I think that's a fairly fair trade. So, of course I'm biased. But hey, look, I could do trades all day. We'll definitely do a couple of these Trade Machine Mondays in the off season. But hey, it's been, Harper's definitely emerged so well. Hence why there's so many Fox trades. Harper's emerged, and I don't think you would even think about a Giannis trade. I think that's stupid for the Spurs. So, you've got some options there. It's about asset retrieval and freeing up more minutes for Harper, basically. So, while staying relevant. So you can go a bunch of different ways as long as those teams are interested in De'Aaron Fox. So, look, thank you for tuning in. We'll catch you after Game 6 when either the Thunder advance to the finals or we have a Game 7 on the horizon. So, until next time.